Could we all give it up for Mr. David McQueen? You can. If it doesn't, you can take mine. Mine really works.
1, 2. Okay, good evening, good evening, good afternoon even, good afternoon. Everybody okay? Yeah. I know I'm between you and your drinks that you didn't pay for, but I'm going to try and make sure that I make the most out of this session with you guys. If you have got, here's one of the things I will say. I know they're recording it, but I'm going to be speaking fast. So I want you to take notes fast. If you can't write fast, I want you to take out your phone and record it. I don't mind if you record the content, just as long as it doesn't end up on Pornhub or something like that. I'm absolutely happy for you to go with it. I'm going to share with you guys as much as I can. I thought we were finishing dead on 5, and I was going to mash this out in 15 minutes and bounce and be gone. But I know now that I've got at least about half an hour, so I'm going to try and give you as much information as possible. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the basic of what I'm going to do. So for about the first 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about some ideas. And then I want to spend the last 15 minutes where you guys ask me questions. Because I know that you've had a lot of stuff that's been told to you, but I want to hear what the questions are you have from here, okay? The other thing I will say to you, if you want to add me on LinkedIn, or if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm more than happy to connect with you there. I know a couple of you, we've had conversations already, a couple of my friends already, because people know that I don't hold back my tongue, all right? If anybody's in the room and have an issue with me talking about black, now's the time to leave the room, because I'm going in, okay? And not in a bad way, but I just want to be able to highlight that. So very quickly, let me give you some quick information about me. Let me put on my glasses, all right, so because I want to make sure I see everybody. So I'm 50 years old. I know I look buff because my wife told me this morning, all right? My daughter was like, Dad, how can you go out there in skinny jeans? I was like, your mum. She was like, that's your wife. I said, I know, but still your mum. Anyway, that's how it's going to go on today. Right, I'm just letting you know. So 50 years old. There's water. Is there water in there? Can I ask you if you pour me a little? And that's the only bougie thing I get when I'm a speaker. Can you do that? Just a little, nice. And you got lemon as well. No, I'm joking. All right, so 50 years old, been doing this for a while. Yes, I have. I've actually been speaking officially for 30 odd years. So I've been doing it since I was 20. I love it. I love making people smile, but I love making people learn. And what I want you guys to do is walk away from here today with at least 2 or 3 things that can really help you. How many of you in here want to be a leader? Keep your hand up if you already are a leader. Okay, good. How many of you want to be a better leader? How many of you, hands down, how many of you are working for a corporate or kind of organization or charity or what have you, okay? How many are working for yourself? How many of you don't have a job? Let's keep it real, okay? It's all right, because you're 17, it's all right, it's good, it's okay. See, I like these students, it's all right. This is potential. Don't feel bad, all right? If you're over 40, we have work. Talk to me later, all right? So the 3 simple things I'm going to give you today, and then I want you to ask me questions on it. The first and foremost is that as a very visible, and I'm going to say this because I get to speak a lot, and some of you may have seen me online. I speak, and I used to be on Twitter, but Twitter is just like dangerous. That's like sharks. I'm not on there anymore, right? I just but LinkedIn is my space. But I'm very, very open about what I speak, and I'm very pro-black, okay? And let me explain to you what I mean by that. Pro-black doesn't mean anti-white, okay? What it means is I'm very, very proud of my heritage, and I'm very proud of the people who have paved the way for me to be here. And I think it's my duty and my obligation to pave a way for other people who are coming behind me, who look like me, who come from a similar background, who shape that way. I know there are lots of individuals who don't like to talk about race. I talk about race because I think it's important. I'm not going to ignore it because I've seen and I've worked for a lot of consultancies. I've worked for banks. I've worked in advertising. I've worked in publishing. And I've heard people talk about diversity in education for years, and they don't do anything, all right? I may swear a couple of times. All right, so I'm just letting you all know, if you're Christian, Muslim, or any other religion, you pray for me, all right? If you're spiritual, just go and burn some sage for me afterwards, okay? But I'm going to say it because I need to be able to express it. Don't think of it as a negative way. It's just part of my vocabulary. But I'm tired of shit, all right? I don't like to see people who have amazing talent and who have amazing potential get passed over. Okay, because their name's not Becky, or their name's not George, or they didn't go to the same school in Oxford as someone else. I don't like that kind of stuff, because I understand the world's unfair, but I think there are ways to game the system as well, and hack the system. So I'm going to share some of that with you. So very quick context, I run my own company with my wife. Actually, let me tell you about my wife, right? My wife is so buff. Oh my gosh, all right? So I've been married to my wife. This is for context. My parents were from Barbados and Grenada. Her parents have passed, but they were from Barbados and Antigua. We've been married now. This year we celebrated 24 years, okay? We've been together since we were 19, so we've had 31 years together. Certain man go, oh my gosh, how can you be with one woman for the same time? I'm like, man, if you get good plantain or plantain, actually, I'm going to do that now. I'm done, right? Okay, you're going to love me, all right? I don't care how. You can argue with me all you want, right? But if the tain, all right? Listen to me. Just stay with me. Stay with me. No, I need you to soak it in your heart. If tain as a suffix is at the end of a noun, like mountain, captain, fountain, plantain, all right? That's a tin, all right? If it's a verb, it's sustain, maintain, obtain. You've got a free English lesson up in here. Some of you like looking at me like weak Caribbean. Don't watch that, don't watch that. I'm only joking, Because you know what, and this is one of the things I want you to understand, all right? We can banter about that, but you need to focus on the serious things as well, all right? We can banter about plantain. You go into the thing, they don't care, they just think it's a banana, right? The people don't care. You need to focus on what's really important. So three key things, so if I forget, you remind me. The first thing about developing in your toolkit is know who you are as a leader. That's the first thing, okay? The second thing I want to focus on, remind me if I go off this, is know who can help you to be a better leader, so who's in your team. And then the third one that I want you to focus about is know what you're actually leading. Make sense? So know who you are. Like, I'm confident. How many of you come up here and do what I'm doing now? Raise your hand. Okay? All right. Some of you are looking at me, I'll do better than you, mate. All right. How many of you come up here and do it if you had to? Okay? How many of you like, Bunda, I ain't going to speak up in front of nobody, forget that, I'd rather swim in industrial waste. Okay, all right. What's the worst that could happen if you came to do what I was doing now? You die. That's the worst. You die, okay? You're dead, okay? And how many people today you know came up on the stage and died? All right, I ain't gonna die today, right, please. I'm gonna die, all right? But they did a survey in America, social anxiety survey, many years ago, and they asked people, what do you fear most? Death came third, okay? Speaking in public, no, death came third, spiders came second, and speaking in public came first. People would rather die and touch a spider than speak in public. And I think that's really mad. I was talking to can I share that story? Yeah. I was talking to this young gentleman here, and this makes me feel old, right? But he said, do you remember where you saw me? And I was like, yeah, I thought he was like a teacher. I was like, yeah, I saw you in the school. He goes, no, you spoke in my school 6 years ago. I was like, okay, all right. But I was proud because he remembered the story, and part of what you have to do when you're doing yourself as working as a leader is make yourself memorable. Make sure that it's memorable. Here's one of the myths that you were told. For anybody that comes from an African and Caribbean background, here's a myth. Go back to your parents and tell them to call me, email me, WhatsApp, Insta, and I will contest them. They told you this real myth, to keep your head down and work hard. That's a myth. And I'm going to tell you now, as a person who sits in the suites of directors in banking, and in media and in technology, keeping your head down and working hard is good, but nobody ain't going to recognize that if you don't, at some point, shine your light. Because let me tell you something else. While you're working hard, there are a lot of other people out there shining their light. So work hard, but work smart, but don't be afraid to develop your personal or leadership brand. What does that mean? It means you might go and write articles. It means you might go and work charitable work outside of your actual organization. It might mean that you are part of the organizations that will work have, so any of your employee resource groups or any of the things that can work in education or whatever. Go and do something outside of your natural job that demonstrates your leadership. Put it on your LinkedIn, all right? You want to know if your workmates are looking at you, update your LinkedIn profile. Because HR think you're moving to a new job, all right? Go and update your LinkedIn profile and put that information on and make sure you're visible. But be confident. And this is the one thing I was saying about speaking in public as well. Don't be afraid when you have the opportunity to speak out. Some of you are going to be a bit more reserved. I understand that. But find an area of competence that you're good at and be confident about that. Okay, I know I will stand up on stage and I will speak. I will go to a Ku Klux Klan rally, all right? I'll rock up there, put on the hood and like, yeah, wagwan, brother, and then run out the back, okay? But the fact is you have got to be confident. Every single one of you that's in here in this room, you know what you're good at. Sometimes people want to be shy. Oh, I don't want to tell anybody. That's boastful. Well, stay there with your broke ass, all right? At the end of the day, you have got to be confident enough, whether you say it openly or write it down, that you know what you're good at. Stop being afraid. We ain't got time to be afraid. And I know I'm quite extrovert. Let me keep that 100%. You don't have to be extrovert to do that, but you can demonstrate exactly what it is that you're good at. You have to be confident. You've got to be able to open your mouth. And the truth is, and I'm not going to lie about it, and I'm going to be honest now, some people will tiptoe around this. You're going to, at some point in your career, face racism. Okay? Whether it's unintentional or intentional, you're going to face it. I'm going to tell you. And since 2016 and the whole Brexit thing, I've seen it more and more. I'm working with people, I'm coaching, I'm mentoring, and I'm hearing the stories coming back. And it happens. What you've got to realize is, what armor am I going to wear when that happens? Am I going to stay up that one day and am I going to fight that battle? Or am I going to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to have a different way of being able to play with that? And I'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. But you've got to be able to recognize you're going to get hit by, the women in the audience, you're going to get some stick and some horrid crap from men. Even from the men that you will call brethren, okay? Who will not necessarily like to see your power and see where you go. Because sometimes they're threatened by the fact that, listen, let me tell you something. I'm going to be honest with you now. Me and my wife run a business together. If you took me out of the business will still run. Tell you no lie, because my wife, she's organized, she's really particular about certain things. I'm just like, let me just put me on the stage. I don't tell the people the business. Let me do what? She's like, no, this is how we have to do it. And what I've realized is that when I'm working, it's about an interdependence. It's about knowing what those skills are, and it's making sure that I lift people up. When I'm here, I want to be able to lift you up. I have this thing. It's a word, right? I didn't make it up, but I love it. It's called Blexcellence. Blexcellence. You can quote me on it on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Insta, whatever it is you use, all right? Blexcellence, okay? And it's black excellence. And what I mean by that is there is, and I'll come back to the challenge about the parents as well, there is a burden. There is a burden. We have to admit it. We can't deny it. It doesn't necessarily mean it should determine what you do, but there is a burden. When you go into a building, you know, especially if you're the one person in that building, that you often feel that you're representing the whole black nation, okay? You know that's what's going to happen. You have got to decide how you're going to navigate that space. And I'll come to, as I said in a second, I'll come to how we do that. But recognize that for yourself as a leader, you've got to be able to identify, be confident. I actually have a model, very quickly, it's called BRAVE. Let me share that with you. This is a model I use when I'm coaching people. So it's BRAVE. B is for bold. R is for resilient. If I'm going too fast, tell me to slow down. A is for agile. V is for visionary. And E is for empowering. So brave. Be brave. Okay? And so what that means about being bold, it's about being able to stand your ground, knowing exactly what it takes. Go and do your leadership training. Don't go and do your management training. Don't just do the stuff that's in work. See how you can extend those skills outside of work with your hobbies and whatever else you're doing as well. Resilience is also about being able to hold your boundaries. Hold your boundaries. I remember my first job, a woman came to me and she said, you know what, can I ask you a question? Obviously, I'm a lot older than you lot, so but context. She goes, can I ask you a question? So I said, yeah, what is it? She goes, well, I've never really worked with black people before. I was like, well, you know, it's the first time for everything. And she goes, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. She goes, do you wash your hair? So firstly, some of you lot are rolling your eyes at me like, if it was like Tomper in her head and smash up that. No, so I looked at her, I was like, yeah, I do wash mine. She goes, well, you know, I don't know. So what do you use? So for her, I just said, well, I use Head and Shoulders. I was going to say Dark and Lovely, but she weren't ready for that conversation, you know what I mean? I had hair then, do you know what I mean? So I said, and then I went through a process and I realized that, to be fair, she came from a place she had never actually seen a black person in her life before apart from on telly. So I had to school her, you know, we wash and rinse our dishes, okay, you know. I had to say, yeah, we have a shower, we make sure we use deodorant, comb our hair, and all these things as we fry the stuff. And seasoning is not just salt, you know, and the whole, and I'm bantering, but we had this conversation and it was a great learning. And sometimes you've got to recognize, like, you know, I'm sure people in here have had somebody want to touch your hair. Now, I'm bald, so nobody ain't going to do that with me, okay? Because, like, don't touch my hair, all right? But there are times you have to educate, but you've got to understand the resilience is about not necessarily just seeing a negative, but what is it that makes me strong when I get a pushback? What is it that makes me strong? Okay? Resilience. Third one, agile. You've got to be flexible. Learn. Just because you learned something and you did your degree, I'm happy for all of you got your degree and stuff. Just because you learn it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to create much value 1 or 2 years down the line. You've got to still be learning. So be agile, always be learning. Fourth one, visionary. I'm going to recommend a book to you, all of you. It's called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. If you want to get into leadership, go and buy that book. I'm going to recommend about another 2 books as well. Just write it down. I will never remember the names of the authors, but just work with me. Just ping me afterwards if you forget it. Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. A lot of people who are supposed to get into leadership don't realize that they have to read and understand the mechanics and the techniques of leadership, but that's an absolutely excellent book. So that's about visionary. You've got to be strategic. You've got to think long-term. A lot of these guys were talking about the goals that Roxanne was saying she got a 15-year plan. I'm like, Roxanne, I can't even think 15 minutes into the future. But, I really love that. But you have to have a strategy about where you're going. V is and E, the last one, is empowering. And empowering is not just about empowering yourself, but empowering other people around you. I was in the room in the other room with a guy who I'm a massive fan of, Sir Lord Hastings. Love what he does. And on the thing it was saying, send the elevator down. Now, I have a slight variation on that, okay? Because I just want us to just go up in the elevator together. And I know it's good to send the elevator down, but I'm going to say this, and this is not to take away from what you're saying. There's too many people of my generation who think that just because they got to a space that we're better than the youngers. And just because it took us 10 years to get there, that a younger person has to get 10 years to get. If you can get to where I've got to in 2 years, I'm 100% behind you. Do it well and make sure you can get somebody who can get there even quicker. But do it well with excellence, all right? That's important for me. Let me jump very quickly because I know I want you to do some questions. The second one is, who's in your team? Here are people I think you should be in your team. Somebody who's not afraid to tell you no, all right? When you've got an idea, somebody who's not afraid to tell you no and who's going to challenge you on your themes. Get a coach. And I would say to you, if you can get a coach, and this will be probably longer down your career path, but if you can get somebody who can really challenge you on the blind spots that you have in your career, get a coach who can really help you to take you to the next level. Here's another one I recommend. Get a mentor. A mentor is somebody who can either be older than you or they can be on the same age, but it's somebody who's got the experience that you don't have, and you can have a conversation about how do I navigate that space. And here's the one, especially if you want to go into senior leadership, that I really recommend to you, get a sponsor. Okay? And for those of you who don't know what a sponsor is, it's somebody in an organization or in your industry or sector who's that person who can open doors for you. Not only will they mentor you, but they can open doors and they can say, have you heard about Jane? Or have you heard about Bob? Or have you heard about Dave? Because this person is doing really good work. I really recommend them to have you on board. And then obviously you get your family and friends who will definitely lift you up. But that's what I call your personal advisory board. And don't have people around you that will just say yes to you. Have people that will challenge you. Really challenge you, not just massage your ego, okay? So make sure you have those people around you. And when you are in an organization, watch other people who are ascending. Some will get there from nepotism and other things, but just watch how they're ascending and see how you can work with those. Because success leaves clues. Never be afraid to ask questions. Here's another book I'm going to recommend to you. It's called Power Questions. P-O-W-E-R questions. Power Questions. You get better answers when you ask better questions. Trust me, I've been married for 24 years. I can tell you that, all right? You get better answers when you ask better questions. The book is called Power Questions. When you search it on Amazon, it's got a bright orange cover. Definitely recommend that book. And the last one I want to go to is learn the organization. So learn things about strategy. Learn about KPIs, OKRs, about margins, about the reports. All those things that you know that are necessary. Learn about, and this is so important, learn about how to manage people. Don't run away from conflict. Okay? And I know there have been some conversations here about positivity, but learn how to manage your negative emotions as well. Don't suppress them. There's nothing wrong with being angry. Obviously, you don't go in there and beat up the whole board when somebody vexes you, You're not going to react in that way, but don't be afraid to be angry. Don't be afraid to, because when we have things like anger and guilt and all these so-called negative emotions, they're there for a purpose. Because they're telling us something ain't right. Something's not right here. And how are we going to be able to address it? Okay? So it's so important to know that when you're going to go into the position of whatever organization you is, get the lay of the land. One of the things I found that worked really well for me, so I run a group with, I run a supper club with men, all right? And I specifically just work on men. I found that the dynamic works for me. I mentor men and women and coach them as well, but I specifically run a supper club for men. And part of it is getting us to understand our personal and professional development. We talk about finance, we talk about work, we talk about how to properly date a woman or a man, whichever way, whatever. The fact is we really focus on that personal development stuff. But what I found, and this is the reason why I did it, is I'm not afraid, whoever you are, to take you out if I really want to know something. If you've got some knowledge that I want to know from you, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to holler you. I'm going to find you on LinkedIn or whatever. I'm going to find your email or whatever. I'm going to give you my number. I'm going to add you on WhatsApp, and then I will take you out for lunch. Take you out for lunch. I will pay lunch. Nando's is cheap, all right? I will go out there, and I will pay for lunch, but I will go there because I want to learn something from you, and I want you to learn something from me. Do not be afraid to ask people for information. And here's the last thing I want to say before you get questions back at me. I'm conscious of time, okay? One of the things that I want you to is don't get hung up on only seeking a mentor, coach, or sponsor that looks like you. And the reason being is if you do, you're going to get sorely disappointed. I'm going to say it now, but some of my elders are going to cuss me. There are a lot of people who look like me in my age group, and they just want to keep their network to themselves, and they don't want you to advance quicker than you can. Go out there and talk to other races. Go out there and talk to other genders. Go and talk to other experiences. Don't just limit it. Yes, if you talk to somebody from a similar culture, they can understand some of the nuances. I think that's good to have that in your whole network, but don't just limit it to that. And there's so much information online, from podcasts to YouTube to the books. Soak in all that information all the time, and don't be afraid to ask a question. And please stop apologizing. I'm sorry to bother you, or I think you're so busy. Well, don't call me then. I know you're really busy. How you know? Have you seen my calendar? Okay? At the end of the day, be bold. Honestly, really be bold. Really be bold. And I want to encourage you all, as I said, whether you are running your business or looking to climb the corporate ladder or whatever it is you're doing, you've got to go and do it intentionally. And remember, when you're there, create space for others to come with you as well. Definitely. And share the lessons that you've learned. I want to take questions from you. I know I've thrown a lot at you. I want to take questions from you. Go. So, yes. Just shout at me. We don't need no mic. Shout at me. You're good. I'll repeat. Hi, Aisha. Okay, that makes me feel good. Okay.
And I was asking if you want to be my mentor.
Oh, wow. Okay. I only have one mental space left for the year. Okay, then, yes, it's fine. Fine. So for the English in the crowd, in the most platonic way, she just shoot her shot. Okay. That was real platonic, all right? Just keep looking. All right, okay. So, yes, sir.
All right, so for you personally,
yes.
What was the move that you had to make from being a speaker to being a speaker for banks?
I put myself out there. When I first started on Twitter 10 years, so 2008, I used to post a lot of content for free. And I used to post a lot of content. For people who are in the room who know me, is I make a lot of trouble around diversity and inclusion. Because I think what they do is, and don't get me wrong for people who do it, but I think in many organizations it's a nice tick box. Let's go and do some unconscious bias training and throw people in a room and tell them it's fine. Let's do that stuff. I'm like, no, that don't work. It doesn't work like that. And I said, you're rubbish, you're talking rubbish. I'll go and I'll look at your sector. And I said, and I've worked in these companies, and that's a total load of rubbish. So people are like, Dave, you're really brave, isn't it? I'm like, don't worry, I know when my bills are getting paid. It's all fine. But what I would do is I would challenge them. What it did, it created intrigue. People started to follow me. People would argue with me online, and that was really good. And then the people who would argue with me online, I ended up going to their company to end up going to have to speak. So one of the things I've realized is that I wasn't provocative just to wind people up. I was provocative to create a debate, a discussion, to have something really sensible about it. But not only that, when I was discussing with them, I came with data. So I couldn't come and say to somebody, like yesterday I said, unconscious bias training doesn't work. Somebody was like, right in my email, how can you say that? I said, let me send you 3 reports to tell you why it doesn't work and why I prefer effective communication training. Because when you just think of unconscious bias training, it just says, right, you've got a bias against a group of people. When you do effective communication, you're looking at all the cognitive biases. You're looking at all the behaviors. You're looking at across the board. You're looking at psychology that goes deep. Some people don't think, I do my stuff, I'm deep, proper, hardcore, going deep. So that when they pull me in, and I'm having that conversation, they go, oh, so can you come and talk to us and your leadership team? I'm like, yeah, that'd be 10 grand, please, sir. No, fine, you're all right. And then I get through the door. Part of it, and I will be honest with you, part of it is experience. I had to graft, and I had to start somewhere. But there were certain things that just escalated it. So, for example, I worked with Richard Branson for about 5 years and part of the Virgin team. When people saw pictures of me, Richard Branson, I just took it to the stratosphere, next level. They all thought we were brethren. I let them believe their own story. Believe what you want, but that wasn't the case. But what it did, it escalated what my brand was. So for me, it was a lot of content. Although I have issues with Gary Vaynerchuk with some of the stuff he says, I'm a real believer that if you put the content out there and you intrigue people, it pulls you in. And if you are going to get called into those larger conversations, please, and I'm going to tell you all now, charge your fee. I have a friend of mine who I'm not going to look at right now because she knows I'm looking at her in the room, but I will tell you, if you're going to go and charge your fee and charge it well. Let me tell you what to start at. If you're going to go into an organization and they want your expertise because they know you've got it, charge them £1,500 plus VAT as a starting fee. Take it from me. You're probably worth more than that, and you're probably all intestines and your insides are collapsing, me telling you £1,500 plus VAT, but they pay. Gok one, right? All you let it touch people's breasts on television, right? And does that stuff. 25 grand an hour. Ain't leaving his house. To talk about breasts and hips, all right? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Yes. Thank you.
How do you think that people that are starting their careers in organizations, how do you feel that they can, what can we actually do to get to empower?
Okay. So one of the things I will say, and I'll get in trouble sometimes with the youngers for saying this, but I don't think unless you're really fortunate in a smaller company or people who see you, I don't think you're going to be in a position of leadership until you reach about 30, okay? And let me be honest, and I'm going to tell you from my own personal point of view, in your 20s, we're all stupid, all right? I'm going to tell you now. You think you can drink till whatever you got, you rave, you meet ugly man, ugly girl, all them kind of thing, all right, what have you. We're stupid in our 20s. I'm going to tell you now, and if you're in your 20s and you're like, no, that's not me, I'm really good, you're stupid, all right? The fact is and I mean that, and I'm bantering with you, but I will say that there's a lot of learning that you're going to do in your 20s that when you look back in your 30s, you're like, rah. Like, I'm in my 50s now, I look about 40s, 30s, 20s, like, that's a lot of stuff that I work for. But I will say, start to create your roadmap from your 20s. Start to look at how people navigate that space and start to look at people who have been in positions of power, what they're actually doing and how they're rising up the senior ladder. And what you do is you do it slightly. Sometimes, I'm going to say this now, for people who are on social media, don't talk your business on social. People talk too much on social. Keep your business to yourself and do your plan in the background in stealth. And so by the time you hit that leadership position in your 30s or what, if people are like, rah, where did they come from? You knew you already had a plan. But start to have that conversation. Companies and organizations want somebody with a bit of skin in the game. They want a bit of, if you're going to be managing multi-million-pound budgets and people with different personalities, you have to have a bit of skin in the game. So I reckon, like, especially when you're starting out in your career, start to have a bit of a roadmap, start to have a conversation with people who have been down the journey. You know, you have a little coffee or a tea and go, hey, so how was it when you were my age? What was it like? My daughter she got 4 placements through, by the way, I should say this, build your network, always be building your network. So I put out on LinkedIn 2 weeks ago that I wanted my daughter to do some work shadowing. So I just put it out there, just blasé. She got work shadowing in Oracle, MasterCard, Morgan Stanley, and Publicis Advertising. 4 other companies applied and said, look, David, I'll take your daughter on board to work. Now, I'm not big enough myself to say that, but I built my well when the water wasn't running. So when the water came in, I was able to say to her, and then when my daughter, I said, listen, you represent my family, okay? You go in there, you behave yourself and just do it. Every single one of them came back. They said, my God, she was diligent. I can see what future she has. My daughter learned a couple of things there, but she knows, she's only 17, so she knows it's something that she can plan towards. So I'll start say, planning your road trip, but don't think, oh my God, it's just gonna drop like that. If it comes early, fantastic. Get the coaching, supporting, and what have you need to, but just think about your road trip your roadmap when you're first starting about where you want to go. Does that help? If you need any more things, just ping me on LinkedIn and I will tell you. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Have I gone over time?
Not yet.
Okay. Because you know I'll be here all day, you know, I love this. Okay, all right. Can I take 2 more questions? Is that all right after this? All right, cool. So I'm late for another dinner, but I pinged him on WhatsApp. It's all good. So I'll say that it has to be organic. It can't be forced. And I'm a firm believer that a lot of time and energy should be spent building relationships and mutually beneficial relationships. So if it's a younger person, they come to me and ask me to mentor, support, what have you, I'm also thinking, what are you going to give to someone else? If I mentor you, and just so you know, lady from Amsterdam, okay? If I'm Netherlands, if I mentor you, I'm expecting you to give something back, probably to someone younger. So for example, if you're in your early 20s and start, one of the things I say to a lot of people who work with me, I want you to go into schools. And I want you to go and talk to younger people about your journey when you went through college and through uni, etc. And what that does is it teaches you that element of being able to give back. But what it also does is it raises your profile in terms of the extracurricular activity that you're doing outside of the D&I, outside of the coaching and mentoring. And people then see that you're going in that direction where you're just not doing the job, but you're looking to expand your actual leadership bandwidth as well. So I would recommend getting involved in activities outside of school, outside of work, other than those internal groups, other than just the coaching, but do things like running an event and having people who will come in and speak and talk and do that stuff, and do that to raise your own profile as well. That's the kind of recommendation I would give. Okay? Okay, I'm going to take 2 more. 1, 2. Yeah, yes, sir.
Thanks for the speech, by the way. The first time I heard about you was on LinkedIn, and I saw an article by you, and it was about why I don't like the word Dane.
Yes.
And so I think I'm very much in the same my mindset as yourself. So in terms of moving away from Dane, what are the ways that we can sort be sort of, because I think that one of the problems is people just not comfortable saying black sometimes.
Yeah.
So what is sort of the alternative, and what's the solution?
Okay, I've got no alternative to saying black, all right? It's black. Get with it, okay? And that's me. So I don't believe in BAME because I think it just lumps everybody in, and I just think it just makes it easy for people. I just prefer to talk about, when I talk about black, I'm talking about people of African and Caribbean descent in the UK. That's it. People will use whatever labels they want, but I don't necessarily prefer that because I know what my focus is on. I know a lot of people in organizations don't like to talk about race, and I say you need to talk about race because when you look at the data, and when you look at the leadership pipeline, when you look at the recruitment, when you look at the fact that you are getting, and some of you will see this, a lot of incredibly talented people get to middle management and they go, bun this, I'm not going to get any further than it, and then they leave the organization. And then I get a call or an email, oh my God, we're having a brain drain of some of the, just say black, all right? So I'm quite comfortable with it, but I understand some people aren't. What I would ideally, in an ideal world, I don't want anybody to even think about the color of my skin. Because I want them to think about the competency of the work that I'm doing. But the reality is that there are assumptions, there are systems and what have you in place that will force that upon us. I think that if we're in a position that we can always just challenge it and just go, when you say BAME, what exactly do you mean? Or when you are talking about black, I'm more than happy to help you and educate that. And spend that time educating. Not making people feel bad, because I'm not about making people feel bad. The only time I want guilt is when I want a mortgage, right? So at the end of the day, you have to have a conversation about challenging those terms, but explaining what they mean to you as well. Does that make sense? We'll have a conversation, because I saw you earlier, so we're going to have a conversation anyway. I may not, because I'm going to have to go and get my dinner, but I'll definitely do that. Yes? Yes? I'm going to give you this mic so people can hear you.
Hi. So I'm a pharmacist, and I've been working for quite a while, and now I've done other qualifications to move into a different industry. So I want to know, in terms of sort of personality traits and initial step, what you think is the best way to sort of go from something that you know quite well into something that's quite new, that I've learned about theoretically but haven't actually got any experience in. So what's the best way to pursue it? In terms of personality, and also what you think would be the initial steps into moving into something new.
Okay. So I think, do I need to get back on the stage, cameraman, or can I do it here? Okay. Don't mess with the key, just put his hand up like, you can do what you want. Like, get on the stage. So I would say that, especially when you're going across industries, one of the things that you will have are transferable skills. So there are going to be a number of skills that you have around people management, around communication, around understanding, decision-making, problem-solving. All those things, I think, are essential parts of your repertoire, your leadership brand, or what have you. But one of the immediate things I would do is to start to have conversations, what I call informational interviews, where you start to talk to people in the industry about what it is that they've done, or what they have done. Have a conversation with them about their specific journey, but also don't just restrict it to your actual company. Reach out to other people that are online. So I'll give it for context. In my LinkedIn is quite restricted at the moment, but I'm going to open up. So anybody wants to add me on LinkedIn today, I'm going to, for 2 days, all right? I'm going to make my LinkedIn so you don't have to have my email, okay? Just don't send me weird sales messages because I will shame you online. But it's so important to have, the bit for me that makes a difference is conversations. The more conversations you have with people, the more you tend to learn. And it might be a steep learning curve, but you're still learning from other people. But the main thing for me is important is you being confident that you can actually do it. Because if you smashed it in one space, I believe, and I honestly believe, that you can be able to go and do the same thing in another space. Because the competency, yes, you may have a specific area that you know around pharmacy that's done really well, but there are going to be some specific skills around communication, leadership, resilience, all these things that will go across any industry. So first and foremost, have the confidence in yourself that you're able to do it. And secondly, yes, come. And secondly...
Oh, I'm coming.
I know, so that's right.
Coming.
And secondly, make sure that you have conversations with lots of people around that, okay? Real pleasure. Thank you. I hope it was helpful. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.